We're rocking today.
Working for the weekend, and I want to see a show. I flip on the book of face. Yeah, I know where to go. There's a man over there.
I love it.
Into the music scene.
Rock it out.
Showing lots of love.
We are live.
For the community. With great advice, I know who I should go see. So all around town radio show.
Love it.
That's where I go for the latest band.
Welcome on a Wednesday with the band, everybody. A little different Wednesday with the band today. I've got one of the best rockers I know in the world who is with me today. He's a drummer. Did you see him? He was playing there at the intro. Thank you to our friends from Sweet Sister Mercy for that theme song, and Rob Nadler in the studio mixing it down for us. Thank you for that. And with me today, joining me on Wednesday with the band, the one, the only legend of Dayton Radio, the B-Man is with me. How you doing, man?
Why you guys do that? It's like my head. Can you see that going? It's expanding. I'm doing great, my friend. It's always great to talk to you. I watch the shows all the time, and I guess I'm just enjoying semi-retirement, I guess. So this is great to do something like this. I look forward to it.
Well, but you are one of those. I'm looking at the B-Man cave there behind me, and you're one of those guys, and I don't care what you say, you're humble about it always, but you're a legend in radio, and not only in Dayton, but across the country. And,
well, yeah, that was a corporate thing, and it was funny because I was, doing the premium choice, and I'd be on in Montgomery, Alabama, or Alaska and stuff like that. Somebody, I'm from Ohio. I used to listen to a B-Man. Is it you the same guy? It's like, yeah, that's me.
That's hilarious.
That's the
radio, man.
Part of radio is that, hey, you're live there, but I was doing the show from, Dayton, Ohio. So, but that's the illusion that radio. Yeah. Well, I was dealing.
Sure we're live. Okay.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, okay. Nobody's listening. It's funny because I was visiting my friend Alan Farrs, the film director. Did the Tree Man. He's working on Triangle Park now, and I went up. He's just up the street here in Centerville. Saw his studios and stuff like that, and he's cut a spot for Aristocrat windows, doors, and patios. So, still keeping my hands wet. So I'm coming home, and I heard Tom Petty's the last DJ on Outlaw Country. I guess it's like, I think that's the first time I've actually listened to the song as a DJ that got fired. Oh my God!
Well,
corporate screwballs and.
Let's rewind. Let's rewind to the beginning, first of all, because your roots are here. I mean, you were one of those guys that worked here for 40 years probably, and
41,
your roots are here in the Dayton, Ohio area, and it was great that you could spend that much time here. And before we get too far into it, we'll talk about your career and how it might have ended and those kind of things at this point. But it's one of those fun things, I think, to realize that you honestly made it in radio a lot longer than anybody I know. I mean, you were there so many years because, I worked in radio for a short minute, and we all got fired on a Friday. They walked in, cleaned house, and changed formats. So, it happens. It's nature of the business. Been going on since the 80s, and it's even worse now. And we'll get to that at the end. But I want to talk about your beginnings. How did you decide you wanted to be a radio host or a radio DJ, man? Because that's a curveball when you're a young person.
And that's an interesting story, actually. I was born here, and when I think I was about 6 or so, we moved to Chicago. And then we moved back here when I was like 16 or something. And I've been here ever since. That was 1970, 5, 6. And I played clarinet. I was a geek, and I played clarinet in the symphonic band. We played for President Jimmy Carter, and, so we moved back here. And the first person I met, my high school buddy, still to this day, was in driver's ed that I took that summer. I didn't know anybody. And we took driver's ed together with a girl who was taking it for her third time. Right. So we're in the back seat hugging each other. We're scared to death. So anyway, I didn't know what to do. And so I got into the band, and I owe it all to Wayne Markworth, who was the band director at the time, put me in, I think it was freshman band as a junior, like third clarinetist. I'm like, this is BS. So I wanted to quit. Well, it was 3 periods, music. And they had this radio program. And I always grew up in Chicago, listening to the old Blackhawk games, Stan Makita, Bobby Hull, and just with my transistor radio underneath the covers, get in trouble. What are you doing? It's jamming. I listened to this WFYR, which was a oldies station, called the Fire Station. And so I just realized how much I loved this music. And then, American Graffiti came out, and I was greasing my hair, and you can see what happened after that. Mike Reed had a motorcycle. We'd share it, ride around, be cool, get in trouble, Anyway, they had the radio program there. And this was literally the first year they had just moved to the new Centerville High School, and pretty much spent my junior year building the studios. And I'm still on the advisory board today. But I thought, I'll get in the radio program. What the hell? It just sounds like fun. And walk into the classroom, and in walks Bruce, and it's like, here's Al, here's Lloyd, we're going to lunch. What are you doing here? I said, I just joined the radio program. So then I had my clique, So we spent most of the junior year building it and doing classes and stuff like that. And to this day, in fact, I do the Americana parade every year with Jack Pohl and Ken Carper, who was my radio teacher. We called him the boss. And I was like one of the few people that actually stayed in radio and wasn't out in the back parking lot smoking dope. Not that I did any of that. So anyway, that's how I got the program. So I was on the WCWT, and then I went to UC for their communications, and got into the, radio station they had there, Carrier Current. And then got myself a job at a little country station, daytime thing. And then I always wanted to work here, and when we moved here, TUE was a different animal. And, we went away for the summer and came back, and they were playing this rock and roll stuff. And I was like, awesome. So I kind of grew up listening to TUE. It's like, and then so in 81, when I was, sending out tapes looking for a job, I sent one up there, and literally the guy responded. He says, hey, we're interested in all that. So I'm working at the roller rink down in Sharonville, and this daytimer I worked at, the country station, it was WSCH Aurora, Indiana. And I was on 2 to 10 on Sundays. Didn't know anything about country. And back then we're playing records. They're all 45s. They're all 2.5 minutes long. I didn't know what I was playing. I'd have to rip and read and stare at the cows that are staring in the window in the newsroom, and did it all myself. And then I shut the station down at 10 o'clock. Well, one day I went to a Molly Hatchet concert at Hare and didn't show up for work, so I lost that job. So anyway, I'm looking for a job, and one day I'm at the roller rink, spinning the tunes. All right, it's all skate. I turn around, my mom's standing there. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing here? She goes, well, Chuck Browning from WTUE said to give him a call. He wanted to talk to you. He said, just call whenever. So I get back to my dorm. It's probably 3 a.m. And I call him, wake him up. I'm really sorry. He goes, nope. I said, call anytime. He says, you want a job? And so I went in and interviewed, and they started me on all nights for a few months. And then I filled in the middays and whatnot. And anyway, the rest is history. Now I did leave in like 85 for a year. We had a falling out, and I went into worked at 96 Rock for a few months in Cincinnati, altering overnights, and then spent about a year in Oklahoma City at the Cat, which is a great rock station, great mascot. And then Tom Carroll, a guy I trained, called me one day and says, you want to come back? And I'm like, I'm in Oklahoma City. They have an NBA team now, right? Yeah. And my family was still here. So I said I'd come back, made me music director, assistant program director, and said they would fire the morning guy, Jeff Curry. And I used to live with him, and we had a falling out. And that's why they let me go. So came back. They didn't fire Jeff. I said, no, I get it. It's a business decision. But anyway, just been doing afternoons ever since. So it's just the love for music, I think.
Yeah. And what a life-changing moment. I mean, go from clarinet to, radio DJ. And that's in itself cool. But, I'm going to say too, John, I mean, I have watched and listened to you over the years. I've seen you introduce bands at many concerts. I've seen you on the air. I've listened to your radio program, and especially the afternoon drive stuff you did. And you're one of those guys that once you have that I guess, special voice that people connect with. And you know, I'm going to pump your tires up a little bit here because you are truly one of my idols in radio. And there are a lot of people who come and go in the radio business. And again, you are that guy who has stuck with it. And you've also stuck with your rock and roll heritage. I mean, if somebody said rock radio in Dayton, Ohio, they would say B-Man in the same sentence. So why rock and roll? Was it just where you landed, or was it always your passion?
Well, I love the rock and roll. You know, when I grew up in Chicago, though, I mean, I didn't realize how much I loved the blues. You know, I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan and me were like that, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and I still, you know, carry that tradition today. I love rock and blues. You know, and locally here with, you know, Noah and, you know, Doug Hart and Scotty Bratcher. It's like there's so much great blues talent. Keeps me happy. I mean, I listen to Bluesville on my truck radio all the time. I find that I'm not listening to the radio much anymore. But yeah, I just grew up loving the rock and roll. The first show I ever went to was 1972, the old McCormick Place in Chicago. And because I was into the oldies, I went to see Sha Na Na because I was into the, you know, Bowser. Bo, 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 bo. And like I say, I was, you know, sharing Mike Reed's motorcycle. We greased our hair back. We were greasers. And I just loved the oldies. And when American Graffiti came out, I just really, I just love this rock and roll. People are like today, well, that's oldies, but that's rock and roll, you know. And I just like the roots of it. It's just been good for my soul. And I've just, you know, I mean, I'll sometimes put on, you know, smooth jazz guitar. You know, I won't say Alexa too loud. I don't want her to kick in here. Good. Sometimes she's a nosy wench. But yeah, I mean, music's good for the soul. And I think I've always liked doing it. And even, you know, in the latter years when you know, we've all been there like, oh man, if they play Stairway to Heaven one more damn time, you know, but still, you know, when I hear Stairway to Heaven, it's like one of the greatest songs of all times. And it's just good for the soul. And blues is good for the soul too. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Makes it that life is music.
Let's chat about changes in radio over the years. You saw 40 years worth of changes. And I mean, I can remember working with carts, which were the commercials were on. And I can remember working with vinyl on the turntables and slip queuing and all those things.
Oh yeah.
You know, what was your favorite period of time when you had an opportunity to be in radio? What was your favorite, let's maybe say technology period?
Well, it's vinyl. I mean, you know, back in the days, especially like doing overnights where, you know, at the time, they kind of let me have a little bit of freedom because nobody was listening, you know. But to sit in the studio, you know, back then, have a beer, smoking a cigarette. We used to sit down and I pull the records for the hour. You know, we used to have these giant record racks. And I used to have 28 things of records here. I cut it down to, I think, 10 now. But as you can see, maybe in the background there, I just got these walls of CDs and stuff that I like the CDs, but there's something about vinyl. There's something about sitting there, queuing it up, talking on the phone. And, you know, I think I even once or twice, I just took something off I didn't like and said, well, we're just going to play this for so-and-so, you know, because it's a good song. And it was fun. You know, I mean,
those are the changes, right? I mean, those are things, like you said, you had freedom back then. You could take a request and put it on the platter and play it. Right. And, you know, then it became programmed by the second almost. And that to me became a little bit nerve wracking because to me, it just sounded like a computer doing it, you know, instead of the guy that really was picking his favorite songs and so on.
Well, and it is. And I mean, you know, today and 40 years ago, I mean, everything's on the computer. You know, and I mean, I used to do sock hops, but I quit doing that because I was carting around them crates of records. Like, screw that. Now I have this computer with two little speakers, but I still don't do it because I get tired of people bitching about, you shouldn't play that song at a wedding. But yeah, to me, it was just fun back then to do all that stuff, all that work. And then when they, you know, when I left or when I came back to TUE, we were owned by Group One up in Akron. And that's where the WONE came from. And we used to be WONE FM. And they changed it to 2 for like 1-2. But me and Tom were running things. And then they started out of Akron sending us, and it's back when you had to print it off, you know. And we, and became ONE up in FM in Akron, and then KZ in Denver were the 3 rock stations. We played the exact same songs. And they, we went from playing Zeppelin, Van Halen, all that stuff, to playing Prefab Sprout, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Fleetwood Mac. And we're like, what the hell? This was the first attempt at, it was historical, really, with Group One, the first attempt to have the stations play the same things. So we were looking for jobs, and I almost went to Richmond, Virginia, and a couple other places, but we didn't like it. It's like we were being told what to do, and they'd monitor you and stuff like that. But you'd always get away with it for the most part. But now, recently over the last couple of years, the systems we had, like with iHeart, is they send us the playlist. We just download it on the computer. It's already there. And
Great.
I could mess with them. I was the only last person. That might have been one of the reasons they finally let me go. I was, Fridays, I've said, I'm not going to play U2. I said, I'm going to play a good old Deep Purple song, and just upped the game a little bit. And people were noticing that. It's like, I was just kind of freeform Friday, kind of the way it used to be. But yeah, there's really no control over anything anymore. And that's why, and like you said, I've seen everybody come and go. I was literally the last DJ. I mean, God love Tony Tilford, who's on for me now. He's out of Louisville. And, Christopher's over in Indy, and Bob and Tom are in Indy. And now they have Dave Alexander, who does a mixed morning show doing middays, and Christopher's on evenings, but there's nobody there. And so literally I was the last man standing, and I saw everybody come and go. And, for years, I became immune to it. And how the hell I was still there, I don't have a clue, because some of the things I did.
Well, I was going to segue into that. You were known for your antics sometimes, and also for your memorable moments in the studio. Do you have one that really sticks out that might have ruffled the feathers of the program director a little bit?
You mean when I got fired?
Well, we'll talk about that one at the end. Yeah. That one obviously ruffled feathers, but I know you've pissed a few folks off along the way from things you did in the studio, and certainly I've seen you with your backstage antics at rock shows and things like that. But what'd you do in the studio that might have been a memorable moment that you remember today?
Well, there's a lot of those. Getting caught having sex. There was one time when
good old days
overnights, and we on Wilkinson Street we had this staircase that went up to the roof. Sometimes we go out there and smoke or do whatever, have friends in and stuff, and we'd yell at the prisoners over there in the jail. Hey, give me some of that. Yeah, no way. So I got locked out on the roof once. I had to call somebody in the middle of the night. And then one time, I think Butch Brown used to be on O&E. He called him Dr. Butch. He always had like one of those little things, when you take on trips, put all your, soap and stuff in, and call him Dr. Butch. He knows about his brown bag. So one night I got pretty stoned, and I was playing Stairway to Heaven, actually, as a matter of fact. I pass out in the chair, and I kind of come to, and the record's going. And the phone was ringing. Back then, I think it was still T105. I find this phone just kept ringing. I answer it. And some guy said, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got locked out. Blah blah blah. Everything's cool." I go, "How long was it?" It goes about 20 minutes. And I thought for sure I was going to get in trouble. And around the same time, I think I had my mic on, and I think I said the S word. And I'm trying not to swear. That's my new thing. And I looked over and saw the mic was on, and then I said the F words. Oh. The mic turned it off, and I just waited for the hotline to ring. This is 3 a.m. Never rang. And I thought for sure I was going to get in trouble. But the first interview I ever did, I was filling in doing middays, and we had a big meeting beforehand, and Chuck Brown, he was chewing everybody out for this and that. And hang on.
Speaking of the hotline, there it is.
That is it's my mother-in-law. And sorry about that. It'll probably ring again. And he chewed us all out, and he goes, "By the way, Iron Maiden's in the studio. You got to go interview him." And they were opening up. Is it Iron Maiden, somebody, and Whitesnake? And I'd never done an interview before. Scared me to death. And these guys were raw as could be. And it was a terrible interview, you know, like, so who are your influences? Blah, blah, blah. Terrible. I thought, well, I'm going to get in trouble. And then I'm sitting there waiting. Boss comes in. He goes, David Coverdale's here. You're going to do another interview. And I'm like, how about the last one? He goes, don't worry about it. So David comes in and sits down. Gentlemen, one of the best interviews I ever did. It's my second interview of my career. And I told him, I said, blah, blah. He goes, I got you, mate. And it was one of the best interviews I ever did. You know, it's one of those guys who asked my question. Yeah. And it's like, after that, you know, it built up the confidence. And I mean, to this day, doing stuff on the phones always sucked because you never know what's going on. You know, on the other line, they're going, this guy's an idiot, you know. Worst one I ever did was George Thorogood. And I was in Oklahoma City. And we had a show that night. And I asked him some question about blues. And he was a big baseball fan and all that. He's like, well, you're the Mr. DJ. You know that answer better than me. What a stupid question. It just went downhill. Only person I ever hung up on in the middle of an interview.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for. I'm sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to take people backstage that night, and he wouldn't do it. He was all pissy. So go back a few years. We had an anniversary show at Frey's, and Tony comes in. He goes, "Yeah, you're gonna broadcast there, and Thorogood's gonna come over and talk." Yeah, I'm like, "Oh no," he says, "I'll be there with you." So George comes in, and he's just a really cocky dude, and but he's pretty cool actually. And he comes and sits down, and I tell him the story. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. You know, sometimes I get like that. And I said, well, you know, sometimes you just don't understand how people are, you know, and it was actually a pretty decent interview. And then I've interviewed him a couple times more. And then we did an anniversary show a few years ago at Hobart. And he called in, and I'm like scared to death. I'm going to screw this up again. It was actually a pretty good interview. And towards the end, he goes, well, hey, Bob, you know, he had a list of people he was interviewing. He's like, oh, wait, I mean, B-Man, something like that. Kind of apologized. I said, no, that's cool. You know, I've been called worse. And at the end, when we're hanging up, you know, I think he was pissed at his managers. He goes, you know, he's hanging up and he goes, that was friggin' B-Man though. And I left that in there because it sounded like he said, that was friggin' B-Man. Like he thought it was cool. And so anyway, yeah. So, I mean, there's just, you know, there's been a lot of instances, some things I won't talk about, but it was fun, but it got sterile. You can't do that anymore. I mean, there's so many strict rules, especially moved to the new studios. It was like, you can't do this, you know, no food, no drink. I've spilled coffee on a console before. And then an engineer will tell you that's the worst thing because coffee will just eat through the stuff. I remember the engineer coming in, Rick Walsh, and he's like, oh man, you son of a, I'm really sorry. But at least he goes, well, at least you told me about it, you know? But anyway,
well, you got tapped a lot to do intros at concerts, to go out and bring the band on and all that. I mean, you were a staple at Hara Arena for many, many, many years. And speaking of spilling stuff on the console, did you just spill that? But
you know, it was in my lap, so no worries.
It's all right. You had to have had some, I mean, I know you have. I've been with you a few times at different shows, and you've had some backstage antics go on. Anything really that we can talk about that is super memorable backstage? I know there was a story once about you wearing the wrong T-shirt. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, that was back in the day where, you know, they were selling T-shirts for $5 out front, you know,
outside.
And at that time you're waiting, you know, to get in the parking lot, you know, it's just mass pandemonium all the time. And I bought a shirt, so I put it on. And so I'm backstage after the show, and they're like, where did you get that? I go, it's $5. Take that off. You know, it's bootleg and all that. They made me take it off. So we're sitting around drinking. I had no shirt on just for a while. And anyway, brought me in one of their official tour shirts and gave it to me. And well, that's really the end of the story. But yeah, they got a little pissy about that because, you know, they weren't making money off that. Charlie Daniels.
That was really cool backstage. I mean, anybody you met backstage that you really still to this day would like to hang out with?
Oh God, yeah, tons of them. The first time I went backstage, I was still in college, and one of my roommates, Ben Martz, worked for the production company. Hey, thanks, Wanda. Appreciate that. And he got me backstage with Sammy Hagar, Scorpions, and I want to say April Wine or somebody like that. And so he took the Sammy Hagar dressing room sign, went back, had Sammy, sign it. He came out, and that was my first experience. I wasn't working yet, but maybe this is fun. This is fun. I mean, Charlie Daniels taught me to, chew tobacco. What a good thing. We're back one night. We're playing poker. It was after the show, and they're all chewing tobacco and spitting in the spittoons. So he said, "You want to try it?" I said, "Well, I used to smoke or chew the Levi Garrett and stuff in high school, and swallow it and get sicker." And I'm like, I don't know. So I started doing it. He taught me how to spit in the spittoon. We're playing cards and just having a great time, drinking whiskey. And Ricky Medlock, was Blackfoot's the same way. And it's just neat to be hanging out there. And I've always been a big Kid Rock fan, whether, they like him or not. The thing I like about Kid Rock is he mixes all the elements of music, even a little bit of rap, and got to hang out with him a few times. And we're backstage once for a show. We're sitting there talking in his dressing room. Peter Wolf walks in from the Jay Giles band. That was always one of my favorite bands. And I saw Giles, at Hera back around 79, 80. They did 6 encores. 2 of them were the lights on, and everybody left. There's like 200 people left in the sold out show, and come back out and they're like, "We ain't done yet." Kept playing. One of the greatest shows I ever saw. So I'm back there with Kid Rock. Peter Wolf walks in. It's like, "Peter Wolf." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Friggin' Hair Arena." I said that when the bus was rolling in. This friggin' Hair Arena. I mean, it was a dump, but it was one of the greatest places to ever see a show, and a lot of the artists remember that. So he's like, hey, Bob, Kid Rock. He said, "Bob, can I take some of your booze?" So we grabbed a couple bottles of whiskey. It's like, wait a minute, give me a shot of that. So we're drinking, just hanging out with like 2 of my favorite artists, and that's why I kept coming back. It was fun.
Hair Arena, one of the coolest places you'll ever see a show, or would ever have seen a show. And I will say, I always tell a funny story, and you'll appreciate this. I was doing stage monitors. I was running the monitor board on the side of the stage, and for Marshall Tucker. And the opener for this act was an unknown little female who got out there and sang her butt off to nobody at the beginning, and came over and sat next to me at the monitor board to watch Marshall Tucker play. And her name was Pat Benatar. Yeah. So I mean, she was like the opener for the opener for the opener in that show, or something they had put on stage. Right. And what a fun place Hair was. I know you've got photos with people, countless people, that most people would die to have those on their wall and all that. Yeah. So, you've done it all, man.
These days, I mean, when you get a chance to do it, it just turned into like cattle calls, and you always felt guilty about being there. They go to the next group. I remember we're at Nutter Center with Kiss one time, and it was a few years back, and we're waiting in this line. We get up there, and they're like, "All right, everybody stand in front. Don't touch anybody." So Gene Simmons is behind me going, I was like, "Well, what about this guy?" Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, just don't touch anybody. Okay, get your pictures. Okay, next." But back then, Gene's one of those guys. He's a true businessman. We were out in LA once for a radio record thing. And, I got to go out there when I did mornings in like 86, did my show out there and hung out in the studio with, Johnny Grant, who had been here, Right Pat, the Honorable Mayor, Robbie from My Three Sons, John Entwistle, Ronnie James Dio, and Ray Manzarek of the Doors. And they come in one at a time, and I interview them and all of that. And, they were guys that would just talk and talk and talk. What a great time. So I got these pictures, of me hanging around all these people, and they're all gone now. I'm the only one still alive. But we're out there for this radio and records thing, and we went to this party. One time we're in LA, we got to go to the Playboy Mansion. And all right, you need to dress up, no cameras, so nobody dressed up. I had on a jacket, didn't bring my camera. And I'm sitting there talking to porn star like Jill Kelly, porn star who had just been at Diamonds a few weeks before that. And I see her talking to all these people. Walk up and she goes, B-Man. This is my friend B-Man. He's a rock jock, in Ohio and this and that. And I'm talking to these porn stars. Like, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. And then Hugh Hefner walks by. He had the 4 girlfriends at the time and stopped and talked to us all. And I was like, I'm standing here with all these people. And then I'm in the grotto. And, some of the girls were getting naked, but they were penthouse pets. They weren't even Playboy girls. I'm sitting there watching this with my jacket on. Go, where is my damn camera? So, and then I go take a leak, and they had off the side of the house was this like a rotunda party room with all these, beanbag chairs and all that. And they're all sitting around. Everybody's hanging out doing that. And I walk in, wait in line to use the bathroom. And I finally get into the bathroom, and sitting on top of the toilet is like a coffee can size of like Vaseline. And I come out and I go, what's up with that? And the guy goes, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, okay. And just stick my finger in that.
The things that went on in your life.
Oh my God. And then I remember talking to some guy, looking up on the second floor, and there's some girl up there just like doing that, riding some guy on a bed, and you could see it in the window. And I'm like, I'm at the Playboy Mansion. And then we're back at a hotel one night, and there's these people walking around like in leather and stuff like that. And we motioned this one lady over, and she goes, what's going on here? Well, it's the video awards. I forget what they were called back then. And this lady was married to Nina Hartley and her husband, I guess 3-way, whatever. And so she gave us her pass, and we went back there and watched the end of the awards. Everybody's dancing on the floor, half naked. And we're just sitting there, yeah, gin and tonic, make it 2, just sitting there going, wow.
How in the hell did you stay employed over the years is what I want to know.
Well, it's like a Sturgis,
me. Yeah, let's talk about Sturgis. I want to hear about
I go out there. I think I did that 18 years, last couple of years.
How'd you start that? How did they allow that to happen? I mean, what? I know you were a motorcycle guy. You've always been. You've been big in the motorcycle community with all the charity rides, all that. But how did you get that pulled off at the radio station?
Well, I was a bike rider, and go back to that question you asked earlier. It's like I think the only reason I survived so long was, not everybody likes you. If everybody liked you and you're getting away with everything, then you're not doing your job, And we used to do the free shows like with Jackal and whatnot. And Jesse's, one of my best friends in the business, and him and Mike Ballard were starting that up out there, and why don't you come on and do your show? I was like, that's a good idea. So the first couple of years was really weird, getting used to it. And then it became routine. But, we did it the old Full Throttle, and then it burned down. And I remember going there when they opened the new Full Throttle, and I went to the old Full Throttle, was just walking around looking at stuff. I was crying, because there were so many memories and all the stuff we etched in all the wood and, the things we did. And it's like, boy, it was all gone. And that kind of changed things. But, Jesse suggested it, and they said, that's a great idea. And then the ratings would go up quite a bit when I'm out there, because, my biker friends would listen that couldn't be there. And you never know what was going to happen out there. And it was just kind of a routine. So then we're getting sponsors for it. But every year it just got harder and harder to get sponsors, because the company wanted them to pay to be sponsors. And so I started printing up the shirts. Like, this is one of the last ones I did. And then I put sponsors on the back. And I get people to give me $200, $500 gas money, to get out there and back and whatnot. And I got called in one day going, who are these people? I said, well, they're sponsors. I go, have they paid for this? I go, yeah. Well, who'd they pay? They didn't pay sales. I was like, well, they paid me. Well, you can't do that. That's illegal to do that. We're just looking out for you. So then they were trying to get sponsors, and nobody wanted to pay, $2,500 or $5,000 to be a sponsor. When somebody gave me $200, and the word of mouth out there, it's like, hey, here's Dave Ciccarelli, attorney at law. We'd sit there and talk about Sturgis, and that was the best, promotion that anybody could get just by mentioning their name. So it just came, my friends are like, yeah, I'll help pay for that. And that's a different world out there, and now I'm at the age where it's like, well, that's a lot of work. So,
and our friends from Until Rust, they were mentioned earlier in the comments there that they loved when you broadcasted live from out there.
Yeah,
right here, I think there's the comment. Said great broadcast from there. But Steve Krakus, thank you for the Dayton Legend comment and a few more out there. But I want to address the elephant in the room. Okay, we've got a little time left, and obviously there's a lot of people out there. Every time I run into somebody or I mention you when you pop on the show and I say hi to you, they're always asking me, how in the world did somebody with 41 years in radio lose his job? And I guess you can dance around this, or you can, I know what corporate radio is. I mean, we joke about it. You and I joke about it, but even the other companies that you didn't work for, they joke that they're nicer companies because they don't fire people on Christmas Day. Because it's the nature of the business. They all fire people. You're there one day as a hero, the next day you're a zero. I mean, my God, that's what happens in radio. And unfortunately, it happens. But you lasted a long time. So you got let go over a 4-letter word.
Well, yeah, I guess it was coming for a while. And I don't think I saw that because like I say, I was last man standing, saw everybody come and go. And I was pretty much immune to it.
Or Halloween, Quentin.
But that's the nice thing about retirement. I still need the coin. So if anybody's hiring out there, let me know. But I kind of enjoy it. And I've realized that there's more to life than this. And it was a lot of work every day. But I would probably admit that I became complacent and thought I was going to retire at 65 in a year. And I think word got around to that. And, it was RIF season, every year for like corporations, like with iHeart, reduction in force. And like I said, everybody I kept getting stabbed in the back. And pretty much I was literally in the old building and the new building, many times just the only person there in the building because I was live and most people aren't. And I think the only reason I stuck around so long is I was in, about 40 markets, for premium choice for the company. And I think that's the only reason at the time and I think somebody in middle management was like, we have to get rid of everybody eventually. How do we get rid of somebody that's been there that long? So when they let me go, it was like, you can't say anything about it. You can't make a big deal about it or you won't get your severance and blah, blah, blah. And it was a shock. I mean, people lose their jobs and I get a chance to talk to all my old friends about that. I get it. I've all been there. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't like the way it happened. It wasn't on my terms. And, but I would do things and say things. And there was instances where, for instance, I was doing endorsements for, Buckman's for years. And I was good friends with Marshall, the GM. They let him go. It was kind of messy over there. And so they said that I would do their Christmas parties every year, just so I could store my bike. And they said that I said, I don't know why the F I'm even here. And I was, well, I wouldn't say either one of those things. And it turns out that the new manager had all the people there. And I was talking to one of the guys. I said, why are you guys all here? She was, hey, they made us all be here. I don't know why the F I'm here. So they finally came to me and said, well, you didn't say that. I'm like, yeah, I know I didn't say that. We should be vindicated. I go, well, it's $12,000 a year in endorsements that I lost. So, and there's little instances like that. So I said something on the air that wasn't indecent, but I shouldn't have. And they said that somebody from corporate heard it. So I had to go through this sensitivity training stuff again, which we do every year. And they said, V-Man, you can't do that. You can't do that anymore. And I was like, well, I've been doing it for 41 years. Why? I can't change now. Well, you have to. You know why you don't have a lot of endorsements? People are afraid of you. And I'm like, who's afraid of me? I'm your best buddy. And, but I was always, into biking and playing ball and hanging out and doing the concerts. And I was just like a people person. So they said, what do you still like about this job? I said, I like being out and doing stuff. Well, you need to change your ways. So anyway, after I said what I said, they made me sign a final warning agreement. And I'm like, I'm not signing that. They go, well, you're not working. So I'm signing it. And they go, you know what this means? I go, yeah, I just effed myself. And so I didn't see it coming. And so I thought, I'm going to retire in a year and a half. I'm just going to write it out, enjoy it, and everything was going fine. So I had the people in for the Art Institute for Oktoberfest, and they're all like, we're drinking in there and doing whatever, having a party. And they go, what can we say on the air? I said, just don't say those words. They don't like that. Well, this one lady in the room took offense to that. And at the very end, this is the orgy story, was, so if they want more information, go to DaytonArtInstitute.org. And I said, orgy. And I looked around, I go, boy, with all you people drinking, that'd be a hell of an orgy, wouldn't it? Well, this girl complained to the sales girl who went to the boss and said, well, we might have an issue here. And they said, I don't know, somewhere. And they go, well, we got him. So literally on Halloween, they called me into the office, shut the door. I was like, uh-oh, what did I do now? Well, you said orgy. Yeah. No, I didn't. Oh, we heard it. Yeah, we heard it. You mean like ORG? But because I made reference to that. They said, we're going to let you go for that. I was like, I don't get it, but okay. So they let me go, and they were going to do it with cause. And they said, we'll do it without cause so you can get some severance, but you can't say anything bad about the company. So I hired a lawyer, got a little extra severance, got the no compete, which is up. Don't have to worry about that. So then I filed for unemployment, and they're like, I've been denied because it was without cause, almost like you quit. So I can't even get unemployment. So they saved my salary. They got rid of the problem, and then they kind of screwed me with all that. So it's not so much that you got laid off. It's just how abrupt it was, and they just delete you. And so I appreciate being able to do stuff like that and just tell the story. And that's the hardest part, was like, you don't exist anymore, except in the hearts and minds of people, that listened and stuff. So,
well, and let me say, you do exist in the hearts and minds of a lot of people out there. And I just saw you on the stage at the Phrase announcing our Friends from Arena Rock show on. I mean, you're still doing it. You did a great job with that. And you're out there, and there's somebody's going to pick you up, and you're going to do some great things. I feel it coming. And you can relax a little now, I think. And the radio business has changed so much. I just hate it that it has come to this, but everything in the world has become corporate. And
I'll give iHeart credit for that, because they're not a radio company; they're a media company. And with the iHeart Radio, I mean, what the stuff they've done. I mean, I finally resigned myself to the fact that, this is the way it is, and I respect what they're doing. But it became so corporate, and with all the other entities out there, XM, whatever, there's just iPods. There's just so many ways to entertain yourself. And they stress that radio is still something there that's in the background. It's still part of your heart. And this is the only way to keep it local, And then, okay, well, you let me go. So I was the only one live and local. So, but it all comes down to money, corporate. Yeah. And that's why it's changed so much. And it's just not as much fun. And there's more coming. I mean, like I say, everybody left, and it just came down to, what do we do with this guy? And that's just the way it is. I've resigned myself to the fact, and I accept it, but still hurts, man.
I get it, man. I get it. And B-Man, we have so much more to talk about. I'd like to have you back sometime, and I'd like to dig deep into the old days of radio, because there was so much that went on back then, and so much fun that went on in the radio station, and the phone calls, the request lines, all that. I'd love to have you on to talk about that more, because those are great stories.
And by the way, what you do with the local talent, I think is phenomenal. And that's, I like to be part of it in any way I can, because there's something about, when J Frost 5 said, Jamie's like, I'd like you to introduce us. It's like, that meant a lot. And to get out in front of a crowd like that, it still feels good. And I do miss doing that. And, it's like I was with my film director friend, Alan Forrest. I was just cutting a spot this morning with him. And then tomorrow I'm doing, I'm good friends with Dan Apolito at Archer. So I'm doing a guest bartending tomorrow at Centerville, like 6 to 9. If you want to stop by.
Shameless plug.
So they pay me a little cash, and I've been talking to, our friend Wasfi, and, there's still things out there. And it's like, my portfolio guy's like, well, you can still drive a van, make some content. I was like, I don't really want to. Well, I could, be like the common folk. And here's an interesting story. It's like all my friends be going to, like, Santana last night, Doobies, Buddy Guy. And it's like, I kind of miss those free tickets. That was always kind of nice. That's one of the big fringe benefits. And I got to do so many things that, people haven't done. You can get on Facebook and see people are on vacation. Like, you bastards, I'm sitting here, taking a dump or something like that. That just ain't right. But that's not real life, and it was a hell of a ride. Right. I mean, it was a hell of a ride. Right. So I got nothing to complain about. It was glorious. And
it was one hell of a ride. You always underrate yourself. Every time I see you, every time we talk, you're just the most humble guy in the world. You're a Dayton rock royalty, my friend. And, I love what you do. I love what you're still doing. Let your head swell a little more. You'll have to get a garage door to get out. But I thank you so much for being a part of this today, and part of what we do, this little simple thing we do here to support local music in the area. And I love that you pop on the show once in a while. and I'd love to have you back to talk more radio stuff, because I think it's interesting to the folks. And we're on at a weird time today. We're on at noon, but as we share this on our pages and so on, people will watch and they'll get a chance to hear the story of the B-Man if they don't know. And I appreciate you opening up there at the end too, and just giving us a little snippet of what occurred, because I think there's so many people. When you were at the Phrase, you're getting ready to announce the Arena Rock show on, and J Frost 5 and those guys. And when you stepped out on that stage, you couldn't hear it, but I could hear it in the audience of 5,000 people all saying, "It's B-Man." I mean, they know you, they love you, and they care about you, man. And that's the cool part about it.
Well, and that's, and we can leave it at that, when I did it and I came out into the crowd, and it took me a good half hour to get up there and get a water, because people kept stopping me, and people I haven't seen in a while, and I was doing hugs and pictures, and it's like, well, whatever makes you happy, man. And I mean, that's life now, and you get to occasionally do things and know that I'm helping people. I just resigned, or I wasn't resigned. I'm still on the board here for our condos. I was president for the past year, which, just helping people out. It's and then a lot of them are older here, and painting stuff, power washing porches, cleaning gutters and stuff like that. And I'm not getting paid for it. I wish it was a paid gig. I'd still be president. But it's like one lady said, "You know what? I'm just paying your condo dues here for the next month, just for what you do." And it's like, yeah, I kind of enjoy helping out people, and it's fun. So, I'm always willing to help you out and the bands. And when I did St. Patty's Day, Quentin from Ladder and stuff like that, you guys from Big Mother and all that. It's like, I know these guys, man. And it's cool to hang out and get a little coin and talk music and listen to music. And I still like doing it.
Outstanding. And guys, if you're watching after we're live, please drop B-Man a note in the comments, and he's going to be monitoring that. He'll see him, and please drop him a note. Say something nice to him, or give a story. If you have a B-Man story, we'd love to hear about it. We are running out of time.
Next time around, I'll give you a tour of the B-Man cave. We can talk about
the pictures, do that.
And the guitars. And I used to have, when John Canals, who was a friend of mine at McGuffey's, moved, and I stored most of his stuff in my house for years, and gave a bunch of them back. But I think at one time I had like 70 guitars around here and no place to put it, and a drum set. There's no place to put it. So still got a few prized possessions. I got actually a Van Halen guitar encased at Centerville Pizza. That's Eddie Van Halen's been there.
I see it every time I go see Benny. It's in there.
It's still there, and it's for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, Yeah. So, John, thank you so much.
When he died, and made a buttload of money off that, but one of those things you hate to give away.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. It's been an honor, actually, to have you here and sit next to somebody I've listened to on the radio all these years. And we hope to bring you back soon and join us again, John. We'd love to have you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, man.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. We ran long, we know, but please share the show and tell the B-Man story out there, if you will. So share the show on your pages. And we'll be back with you tomorrow live at 5 from All Around Town Radio with Who's Playing Out, the best musicians and venues in the tri-state coming your way. For now, signing off here on Hater Radio. That's All Around Town Radio, by the way. The B-Man. Give us a sign off, John.
Hey, everybody, be all you can be, man.
I love it. Oh, geez.